Okay, boys and girls, welcome back. So, in the last episode, we managed to do this, and as the speed increases, he goes from walk to run, which is brilliant. Now, I want to create another animation called punch, right? I actually want to have the player punching, but there are some caveats with punch. Unlike, what we have right now, which is, just something based on the speed and direction, we need to create something new for punch. And more importantly, the punch has to be related to the third person character himself, and we need to have some way of determining where the punch was, so that later on, if somebody is in the AoE or the area of effect of the punch, then they actually take some damage. So what we'll do is we will go back to our third person BP, to our blueprints, open our third person character, and we will create a new variable, and we will call this is punching question mark. So let this be a boolean, and we'll compile and save. By default he's obviously not punching, and what we're going to do is if the player presses a particular key, then we have a punch that is kind of created. So what we'll do is, instead of making any keys here, we'll go to our project settings, and we'll go to our input, and obviously this is punch is not an axis, it's not a movement thing, it is definitely an action thing. So we'll create a new one, and we will call this punch. Yeah, let's just call it punch, and we will put the key as on the keyboard as maybe the I don't know, what key should I use? Like the K key. Fine, let's make it the K key. So whenever you press the K key, the player punch. Actually, let's make it control or something. It's a little difficult to punch. Left control. Okay, perfect. So again, I'm not going to put in gamepad or motion control or whatever. Let's just make it simple. Let's just have left control here as punch. So that's done. And now in the event graph, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to just look for punch. So as you can see, there are two different types of punch. One is this variable which we've created and our ability to get and set that variable, and then is the actual action event. So I want the action events, and when the punch is pressed, what we want to do is we want to set the is punching to true, right? And we'll wait a few seconds. Let's do a delay. Maybe we'll wait for the entire punch animation duration. I don't know what the duration is. I have to check the animation, but for now let's make it 0.5 seconds, right? And then we will set is punching to false. So I hope you guys understand what's going on here. Let me just comment this. First we punch, we wait half a second, and then we switch off the punch. So we say, well, he was punching for a little bit, right? And for now, what I think I can do is maybe just show you what that is like. So when I press the left control, nothing happens, and that's because we're not printing anything and no action is taking place, but rest assured, a punch is being taken place, at least in the code, right? So now what we need to do is we need to show an animation when this player is punching. So what we'll go do is we'll go to our Delhi animations, and we will move this a little aside, and we will use something called a sequence node, right? Sequence. Now in programming, or at least in Unreal Engine, what happens is all of this code is being it happens very quickly. It happens and is calculated within one frame. But if you want to run something in parallel, which is or rather in sequence, which is first this happens and then this happens, then you use the sequence node. So what I've done here is first all of this code takes place, and then this takes place. Now, obviously I could have just dragged this off and continue doing it, but it's much cleaner when you have a sequence, so that that you can have, you can just kind of comment all of this and say sequence 1. You can just do all of this and say sequence 1. It's a little easier to manage, to be very honest, right? And then once that's done, we will cast to third person character, right? We will cast to the third person character, and we'll check, right? We'll see if the punch is on, and this runs every tick, right? So this will run pretty much all the time, and we say we'll do a branch, right, which is an if condition, and we'll check as the third person character is punching, we'll get the value and we'll put it here. So if he is punching, then we will print a string called punching, and that's about it. Right, let's just do this. Right. I hope you guys understand what's going on here. We're casting the third person character through the try get pawn owner just like last time, and we're setting is punching, or we're checking if is punching is the value of that, and we're just, if it's true, then we're saying then that players is punching. So right now obviously no punch is going on, but when I press left control you can see that punching went on, and you can see that's a long list, right? You can see that it went on for a while, and it's going to keep happening for 0.5 seconds, and in 0.5 seconds, God knows, we would have had many frames, and this runs every time the animation is updated. So this would have run for quite a while, for a total of 0.5 seconds. So what we want to do right now is we want to create our own variable here, and we'll call it the same thing, right? We'll just call it is punching. Now this is a local variable. This is a variable that doesn't belong to this, to the animation blueprints. This is a variable that belongs to third person character, and we're casting the third person character to use that variable. But now what I've done is I've created my own is punching variable, and this is local, right? And we use the word local to determine whether it's in this blueprint or some other blueprint. So this is local, the is punching, and it's a new variable that I've created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that, whatever the value of is punching is, we will set is punching, right? Not the third person character, but the variable here. So there are two is punchings now. Actually, just to not confuse you guys, let's rename this is punching underscore local, right? So it's just easier for you guys to understand. As you can see, two different variables. I'm going to choose the set is punching local, and this is a concept in object oriented programming, right? Which is whether it's local or global, like it really depends on which blueprint you're in. And it's like I said, it's much easier to teach these concepts when we're actually doing it in real life rather than if I'm doing theory first. You just won't get the theory unless you see it practically. So I'm setting whatever value of the third person character punching value, I'm setting it here to our local variable. So this is going to be updated. And the reason I'm doing it here is because I'm going to use this obviously in our kind of transitions. So I'm going to go here into our state machine, and we have idle to walking running. I'm going to create a new state, and I'm going to call this punching. Right? Now I feel like you should be able to go to punching whether you're walking or running, and you should be able to go to punching even if you're idle. You should be able to go in both situations. The condition should be, well, if this is true, then you can enter transition. Right? Let's just do boolean equal to, let's just do equal boolean, which is we're checking if this is true, then you can enter transition. All right? Very simple. Where's that? Yeah. Go back to the state machine. So walking, running goes to punching, and then we create a same transition, which is if is punching is true, which is equal boolean. If it's true, then you go into this. Right? We go back to our state machine, and now we draw the reverse lines. Right? We go back from is punching to walking. Under what conditions does it go back? Well, if is punching local is equal to false, right? If the player stops punching, and we know that, then we obviously move back into the walking, running if there wasn't walking, running. And if the player was in idle, then we draw that idle back. We go here and we do the exact same thing. If this is equal to false, right? So not checked. And that should basically push us into the punching state. But there's nothing inside the punching state, right? So if I double click the punching state, there's no animation. So let's just put this animation in there. Right? Compile, save, and this should ideally work. You see that? Now the reason it doesn't fully complete the animation is because we don't stay in the is punching state for too long. We stay there only for 0.5 seconds. For us to find out how long an animation lasts, just go to your Deliman, go to the hook punch, right? How many seconds is this? This is 2.17 seconds in total. Wow, that's a long punch. We will do 2.1, was that 2.17? 2.167, okay, let's be accurate about it. Let's go to our third person BP, right, 2.167 seconds. So exactly the length of the animation. Bam! See? Bam! Now, one issue you guys will notice is that I can walk, and while walking I can still punch, because we've made that possible. We've allowed that transition state, and I'll show you a cool way where we can, you know, allow the player to walk and punch at the same time, but you know, we can do this too. And one thing you can do, one very, very easy thing you can do to kind of prevent this is in third person character, we can just, while this is punching is true, you can basically stop movement immediately, and you can do stop input, actually disable input, I think it was called. Yeah, you can disable input so that the player can no longer run, but I actually want the player to be able to run. And if you do something like this, if you do disable input, right, and we'll have to obviously get the player controller, get player controller, right. You can do this, and when you do that, I'm not able to press any other button. Obviously, I have to enable input after that. After this delay is done, I have to enable input. Otherwise, you will basically be stuck forever. Right? Disable input is a one-time. It kind of makes you stuck forever. So I can do this, and while this seems like, you know, a good option, and I'm not able to move anymore, but I'm able to move now. You can do that, but I don't want to do that. So in the next episode, I'm just going to delete all of this. In the next episode, I'm going to show you how we can do a walking punch by blending animations again, but blending in a different way. Catch you on the next one.